Hi guys, I'm Adam Wilborn from WhatCulture.
And I'm Andy Murray from WhatCulture. And coming up today, I'm going to tell you all about the two major matches that WWE have cancelled for SummerSlam 2020. Then we're going to talk about the comebacks of Shayna Baszler and Bianca Belair that went down on last night's Raw. And on top of that, Big Show versus Randy Orton is a thing that's happening in 2020.
Plus, Bruce Prichard is tired, stressful, and sleepy as a result of Raw and SmackDown. Could we be set to see Asuka versus Kairi Sane at SummerSlam? And the real reason Ian C's pod of awesomeness isn't coming back. This is the news.
Let's kick things off. Let's get this show on the road by talking about SummerSlam. So the pay-per-view is, 6 weeks away? 23rd of August. Obviously it goes down in August because it's called SummerSlam. It's not Winter Slam. It's not Reindeer Wrestle Spring. Nonsense. But we've got a report here from WrestleVotes talking about the card, talking about what WWE had planned and the changes they have had to make due to circumstances out with their control. Here is the tweet. Was told this weekend that the projected SummerSlam card that Creative had in place a few months ago has been torn up. Edge's injury played a big part, as well as the lack of audience. No fans means WWE has little desire to have Lesnar on the pay-per-view. Two major matches scrapped. So both of those guys, obviously, they're not going to be competing. I think Brock Lesnar might still be stuck in Canada, and if there's a travel ban there's another issue. But I digress here. You have to think that both of these guys would have been in major matches on the show. Perhaps WWE would have seen this as a spot to do Edge versus Randy Orton 3. Perhaps they might have even thrown Brock Lesnar back into the WWE title picture, maybe done the Drew McIntyre rematch. We know they love putting Brock in major spots like that. And it might not be the match that you want, but it would almost certainly be the match that they want because they don't care. Either way, it's forced some kind of reshuffle. Now, I think that the easy solution to all of this, right, is to go, well, if Randy's lost his opponent and, Drew has lost his opponent, let's book them together, right? Why not? I mean, Drew was speaking this up. He had an interview a month or so ago where he was like, I would love to face Randy Orton at SummerSlam. I think that would make sense. Orton's on the ascendancy. He's doing some of the best work of his career at the moment. The greatest wrestling match ever wasn't the greatest wrestling match ever, but it was a great wrestling match, so he's got plenty of momentum. Let's see what they do. Either way, they've got about 5 or 6 weeks to kind of reconfigure this whole thing. There'll probably be more hiccups before then because this situation is insane, but let's see what they do.
I'm going to invoke what I've fast made my catchphrase here on the news. A blessing in disguise. I think this is the best thing for everyone here. Edge and Randy Orton managed to recover what was, after a dreadful WrestleMania match, in my opinion, at the very least, with, a really entertaining wrestling match at Backlash. But I don't think anyone was clamouring to see them fight again quite so soon. If they're going to challenge each other at, let's say, Royal Rumble or WrestleMania, as Andy has reported, then I think that's probably the best for everyone. So chuck Randy Orton against Drew McIntyre, because also I don't think Brock versus Drew would be that interesting. I realise WWE think SummerSlam, think Brock Lesnar, think huge match, but what would the reasoning be behind it? He was comprehensively beaten by Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania. Look, when myself and Michael Hamlet were booking SummerSlam a few weeks ago on a podcast, we suggested potentially Brock versus Bobby Lashley, but that's not going to happen, let's be perfectly honest. So I'd have Randy versus Drew for the WWE Championship. It's genuinely interesting, and you couldn't call which way it's going to go because the way WWE books these sort of things. And I've said it time and time and time again, I'm going to say it again here, you have to have the main event as Bayley versus Sasha Banks for the SmackDown Women's Championship. Hell, even for the Raw Women's Championship, if you want to chuck that in there, although probably not. Because it is the best bit of long-term storytelling WWE have done in ages, and it is the perfect main event for WWE's second biggest show of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. And, if they might see something like that as a risk, and I don't think they should, but if they do, well, no one's buying tickets at the moment, so it doesn't matter. You can take steps like this. Now, we've seen New Japan take a similar risky step this weekend that wasn't so good, but I think Bayley versus Sasha is a much safer bet than Dick Togo. I'd like to see it happening. I think they've earned it. I think they deserve it. I think the storytelling deserves it as well. So, I don't know, man. Watch them go with Braun versus Bray in a swamp burn down your sister Abigail eyeball match instead.
3 cinematic matches potentially on Sunday. Goodness me. It's enough to make you tired, sleepy, and stressful, just like Bruce Prichard. Yes, it's been revealed by friend of WhatCulture's good friend, Conrad Thompson, on Wrestling Inc.'s own podcast last week, that yes, Bruce Prichard is tired, sleepy, and stressing in his new role as creative lead for both Raw and SmackDown, after, of course, replacing Paul Heyman in that role on Monday Night Raw. Paul Heyman shifted into just more of an on-air character. Conrad said, it's not a little bit of stress, it's a lot of stress. Every now and again, I'll get a call from Bruce, and you can just hear it in his voice. I can only imagine the amount of curveballs coming his way, not just from running a show on Fox, but also USA. And if that wasn't enough, it's also happening during a ongoing global bastard on a closed set, and all the rewrites and stuff that Vince must be doing for him, Andy. Oh, it must be taking its toll. Tired, sleepy, and stressing. A sentence I would use to describe the Dudley Boys as much as I would use to describe Bruce Prichard.
Yeah, I mean, the way this is described here, it just sounds like Bruce Prichard needs a nap. Just, take 5 minutes in the corner, brother. Have a little chamomile tea, find a quiet corner of Titan Towers, and just, veg out for a little bit, just recharge those batteries. In all seriousness, I think no matter what you think of Bruce Prichard and his creative output and certain storylines that have come to pass in recent weeks and months and so forth, you have to look at this job and think, Jesus, this looks like an absolute nightmare. This guy must work so damn hard at the moment, because running one of these shows, right, under normal circumstances, it's WWE, they change their mind constantly. You're at the whims of Vince, and Vince is at the whims of his constant indecision. He will bin plans at the drop of a hat. He will change his mind at the last very second. He'll make you rewrite the whole thing you've been planning for months. On top of all of that, the global situation is what it is. You've got people testing positive, people having to pull out, people having to isolate. You're losing wrestlers left, right, and center. There's crazy stuff going on. You got no fans. You got to manage social distancing and all these other... It's nuts. I do not envy the guy one bit. He is probably getting about 1 hour of sleep a night at the moment, which is about what Vince gets anyway, so he's on that schedule. I feel kind of bad for him. I
can only imagine what it must be like. It's in the WhatCulture office. It's like the Flintstones on a Friday. It's like quitting time. We all slide down a Brontosaurus or whatever. But for him, it's like Friday rolls round, does SmackDown, quitting time. Oh no, Raw's on Monday. And this week, he's got the horror show at Extreme Rules. All I'll say is, good luck, Vince. And stay off the coffee too much, and the, bowels and... Anyway, let's move on.
Yeah, eyeballs. Let's talk about Shayna Baszler and Bianca Belair. They're back and better than ever. I don't know about that, but they do have a knack for making the women's division better. So, last night's Raw, Bianca Belair was the first one to return. There was a segment, the Iconics, Ruby Riott. The Iconics were like, "Hey, we're gonna beat you up because you are on your own and you don't have a tag partner." But then Bianca Belair showed up, which was kind of random, but they went out and they had a 3 or 4 minute match. Riott and Belair won. TKO scored the pin, Belair getting the pinfall. They hugged, they celebrated afterwards. Ruby Riott, to be fair, deserved that celebration because she hasn't won a televised match since February 2019. Absurd. Obviously, she was injured, but that's kind of absurd. That seems to be something that could potentially be continued or transition into a feud. We will find out. Baszler came back just a couple of segments later. There was a silly thing going on in the ring. It was Akira Tozawa and his army of ninjas and R-Truth. They were being weird. Shayna came out. She hit the ring. She beat up a whole bunch of ninjas. 3 of them bit the dust. Akira Tozawa watched this and went, "No, I'm good," just buggered off. R-Truth pretty much did the same. Shayna cut a quick promo talking about the current champions. Their heads are in the clouds. They had the illusion that they were in control, but she is a shot of reality and all of this stuff. I think that was good, effective stuff from her. It certainly bodes well after she was inexplicably removed from TV because Vince doesn't like her or whatever. And I hope to see big things from both of these people going forward. Charlotte's not there. Kairi might be off. Becky's obviously not there. There are a lot of gaps in that division at the moment. It needs talented people like Baszler and Belair. And it's almost like, if you'd actually built these people up over the past 3 months instead of taking them off TV, they'd be ready for a big spot immediately. And the division would be a lot healthier. But I'm just a smart ass on the news video. So hey.
4 words. It's about damn time!
Fair.
Let's move on next to Asuka and Kairi Sane. The Kabuki Warriors, of course, challenging for the Women's Tag Team Championship titles last night on Raw, failing in their battle against Bayley and Sasha Banks, unfortunately. But we could see them face off against each other for the Raw Women's Championship, potentially even at SummerSlam. It was teased as a part of Raw Talk last night. Basically, Kairi Sane said that if Asuka defeats Sasha on Sunday, she will be ready for Asuka. She said she'd love to face the Empress of Tomorrow. They hugged each other. They would be happy to face off against each other. And reports are, this could well be a farewell match for Kairi on the 23rd of August, who could be set to return to Japan. Lots of conflicting rumours. We reported she was done with WWE. Then we reported they were potentially offering a new contract. This would suggest that technically this is the direction that WWE may well be heading in. One nice farewell match, I think, is the best way of handling this, if I'm perfectly honest. And I'd far prefer to see Kairi Sane versus Asuka than Asuka versus Nia Jax at SummerSlam.
Yeah, 100%. Couldn't agree more. I think, if Kairi does end up leaving and she's off as soon as next month, you basically have one opportunity to do this match, and it's right now. It would be a tremendous throwdown between two of the absolute best wrestlers in the entire division. We say crap like this all the time, but, give them 15 to 20 minutes and very limited instructions other than go and do your thing, and it'll be awesome. It'll be brilliant. I think it would be a fitting way, if it is the last match for Kairi as well. A really good way for her to sign off. Pirate ship is in the bay, waving goodbye, having had that one last banger against her tag partner. I think it'd be awesome.
Absolutely.
Do you know what else is going to be awesome? Big Show versus Randy Orton, if you really like Big Show matches in 2020. I think he's been all right. I'm just, joshing. This came about on last night's episode of Raw. They've obviously been feuding for the past few weeks. But there was some stuff last night as well. Randy Orton cut a promo challenging Big Show to a match. Big Show later came out and he saved poor R-Truth before Randy Orton could kill him after beating him in blink and you'll miss it match. Big Show accepted the challenge. They're not wrestling at Extreme Rules. They're not wrestling at the Horror Show at Extreme Rules, the Horror Show Roadblock End of the Line Great Balls of 2019. They are wrestling on the following episode of Raw. So next week's episode of Raw, it's an unsanctioned match between Randy Orton and the Big Show. Maybe they'll even go cinematic for that. Who knows? Unsanctioned, you can do whatever the hell you want. You can go wherever the hell you want, pretty much. That'll be the logical kind of springboard for Randy into his next feud. I mean, a little bit of credit here to the Big Show, right? He's come back into WWE and been a lot more active than a lot of people would have thought in 2020 because there have been a lot of holes to fill this year. With what's going on, people stepping out, he's been there for them. He's come in, he's played these roles. He's old, right? He's old, and a lot of people don't want really old dudes on TV all the time, but you need people to fill big spots, and he's a very large human. So there you go.
Right. Far be it from me to complain about WWE, except that is mainly what my job seems to be nowadays. And I'm fine with them not chucking more matches on Extreme Rules, especially if we're going to be doing a live stream at ridiculous o'clock here in the UK. But an unsanctioned match where we all kind of know Big Show's getting his head kicked off, and you're not putting it on at the Horror Show at Extreme Rules. Okay, I suppose it'll pop a rating on Monday Night Raw, so I can kind of understand it, but fine. Just get this over and done with so we can get Randy into a feud for the WWE Championship, please. Right, let's wrap up by talking about ENC's Pod of Awesomeness. Of course, it was a big hit amongst fans, and then it seemed to go away. A lot of speculation of why that was. Many people assumed it was because how good WhatCulture Wrestling's own podcast is. It's the best podcast out there. Subscribe to WhatCulture Wrestling wherever you get your podcasts from, please. But anyway, Edge responded on Sunday to an Instagram comment. Thank you to Reddit user Killing the Business for showcasing this, who'd asked if the Rated R Superstar were considering bringing the show back after he retires from the ring for a second time. And Edge said, whilst that decision to stop wrestling was kind of out of his hands, stepping away from the pod was his choice, quoting, "It was not that much fun. So, yeah, it's not going to be coming back anytime soon. Sorry."
Yeah, he didn't have fun doing a podcast with his best mate, poor guy. I like the pod. I didn't listen to it every week because I just don't listen to a whole lot of podcasts, apart from the wonderful WhatCulture Wrestling podcast, of course. But the thing is, the market for these things is so oversaturated. I think every wrestler who has ever wrestled has a podcast or has had a podcast at some point. So while Edge and Christian have such great chemistry and are two of the most entertaining guys ever. If you want to scratch your podcast itch, you are not short of other alternatives. So, fair play.
Daily wrestling podcasts covering everything. The news is on it. If you're out and about and you can't watch the news, you just want to listen to it, the news will be on there. Dadley Boys, Wrestle Culture, bloody good quizzes, lists, everything. WhatCulture Wrestling, wherever you get your podcasts from. What were we talking about? Anyway, let's move on to your Twitter questions. At WhatCulture WWE, of course, if you want to get in touch with us. First question today comes from Stuart Easter Taylor, who says, I've just finished watching Dark Side of the Ring. Who would you like to see discussed in Season 3?
Vince McMahon! Obviously, that's never going to happen, right? But, you know, the guy's been subjected to a lot of stuff over the years that I think would really open a lot of people's eyes if it was explored in the Dark Side of the Ring format. I don't think that's ever going to happen. I think the plane ride from hell would be another really vital one, right?
You took the words right out of my mouth. It must have been when you were kissing me, Andy Murray. That's 2 days in a row I've got a Meatloaf reference in. Yes, exactly. Plane ride from hell. That's all we want to see. All the weird, I love the weird sort of recreations they have, whether it be in-ring segments or that mad, who was the mad coked up bloke in his office?
Oh, Herb Abrams.
Yeah, yep. All of that, but just on a plane with all the rumours and innuendo we've heard about that. Just please make that. Come on. It's essential viewing. Make that. Congratulations.
It really is.
Yeah, congratulations to the Dark Side of the Ring guys. 2 sensational seasons. If you haven't gone and watched them, they're on Vice and wherever you can find them. Second question today comes from Nick T, who says, with the eye for an eye stipulation at Extreme Rules, instead of having the loser with one eye forever, could WWE have Bray Wyatt heal their eye should they cross later on?
That's perfect. Yeah, I mean, I want this eyeball match to be the dumbest looking thing of all time. I want it to be just... I don't want a B movie. I don't want a C movie. I want a Z movie. It's got to look terrible. Like, just the plucking this stupid CGI crappy special effect eye out. The only thing that could possibly make that better is a similarly dumb scene where Bray Wyatt heals the person and puts like a gobstopper in their eye socket and it magically turns into an eye. Give me all this dumb crap. I am here for it. I want it 100%. I enjoy this stuff, believe it or not, as much as I enjoy a 4.5-star banger match. I'm looking forward to the eyeball match as much as I'm looking forward to Asuka versus Sasha this very weekend. So give me all that stuff. I am an addict for it.
Do you reckon they're going to do that bit that like maybe your dad or like your fun uncle did, where he'd like take out his eye and then just clean it? Honestly, I would not be surprised if they do something like that. I would not be shocked. Right, final question today comes from Mark Lee Willis, and I do need to apologise. Yesterday, I read Mark's question and got a little bit distracted and didn't answer it whatsoever, basically. So I'm going to answer it again today properly with Andy now. So yesterday, Andy, Mark asks, wrestlers' entrance videos used to have much more content to it than nowadays, but it became quite basic. Do you think more effort should be put into them again? And is there one you thought worked well in the past? Mine was Undertaker's. Now, I read that and talked about wrestlers' entrances, which we've actually answered quite a few times in the past. Mark Lee Willis was obviously talking more about the sort of videos on the Trons. He's talking about how, Undertaker's used to have loads of stuff in it rather than just a spooky moon. I completely agree with him. I think we need to see more videos. I used to love it when they'd have all like the big spots that they'd done in the past or whatever, rather than just their name up in lights.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to pinpoint one individual one because literally all of them used to be better, apart from the right to censor, which was just the big logo thing. But like... Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I noticed this a few years ago when I was watching NXT, and Enzo Amore had a particularly egregious one. It was just like a clip art filter that they downloaded and stuck on a screen. It's lazy, low-effort stuff. It's just a big sign with a dude's name on it. It's not the same. I mean, it feels like, a relatively small part of the presentation, but I believe that every part of presentation matters, and little things like this can go a long way and make a big difference. I would love to go back to the days where it was highlights and clips and cool photos, little nickname stuff and cool visual effects as well, but I don't want to just see Drew McIntyre and nothing else on the screen when the big man walks down.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's what we need to see. My mind immediately turned then to Los Guerreros when Eddie and Chavo would come down, and obviously it'd be the weird sort of images of them in the car. But I seem to remember also little clips of the vignettes they'd had before, showcasing the fact that they lie, they cheat, and they steal. More of that sort of thing, please. Yeah,
they also
absolutely
kill
right.
and win. So there you
We
go.
got there in the end, Mark Lee Willis. Thank you so much for your question. At WhatCulture WWE, of course. And let's move on to today's and finally. And she returned last night on Monday Night Raw, but she has been snatching up people on Twitter the whole time, including this idiot just last night. Someone tweeted WWE about Shayna Baszler coming back, saying, "Not for nothing, but this B is ugly. She is the most unattractive woman in the WWE roster, lol." Right, first of all, shut up. And second of all, why go against Shayna Baszler on Twitter? Because she responds with things like this. "Go watch the Miss America pageant. In the meantime, I'll keep breaking limbs and pulling hotter tail than you." Hello, police. Yeah, I'd like to report a murder. Wonderful response from Shayna Baszler. Stop being a dick on social media, everyone, please.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. I mean, this is an epic, weapons-grade bodying by the Queen of Spades, and hats off to her. I think the only time you should ever amplify the signal of a bell end like this is when you can just absolutely destroy them. Cody did it with some horrible little gimp the other day, regarding the upcoming Sonny Kiss match, and it's just like, be nicer to each other on social media, man. There's so much bad things going on in the world and so many little stresses, and Twitter in itself can be an anxiety farm, and oftentimes when you send your little jokes out there and you think you're being funny and you're trying to pop yourself and your mates, you don't realise the damage you can do to certain people. You're not going to do that damage to Shayna Baszler. Shayna Baszler is going to reply to you and end your goddamn life. However, please just be a bit more compassionate. Don't be a dick. Is the
obviously, what Andy said is the most important thing here. You've got to think about how your words can affect other people, but also, an interesting little caveat, potentially for our slightly younger viewers, think about how it can affect you going forward. This is a record. People have lost their jobs as a result of this. It's just, really think about it before you smash the keyboard with your fists and send out some horrible... Think about actually saying what you've written down to someone's face. Look, Twitter is a great tool, but it can be abused just like any other form of social media. Don't do that, and just enjoy Twitter for what it is. Flies shagging on my window and ass scrapes. I've got an ass scrape on my Twitter, and if you haven't seen it yet, honestly, it's got me out here wanting to risk it all. It's unbelievable. At Adam Wilborn. Follow us all at WhatCulture WWE. Andy, where can people find you?
At Andy H. Murray. The H stands for her. And if you send me abuse, I'm going to mock you, block you, or mute you, or maybe both. The double whammy. That's how I roll. And that's how you should roll as well when people send you abuse.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the greatest wrestling podcast in the world by searching for What Culture Wrestling wherever you get your podcast from. Myself and the Dudley Boys reviewing Monday Night Raw a little bit later on today. But for now, my thanks to Andy Murray. Thank you. Great to see you back, mate. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you soon.